Hello and welcome to Flip TV Discuss. I am Kayode Shopeko. Today we shall be taking a look at the ongoing strike of the Judicial Staff Union of Nigeria. The strike, which has lasted 14 days, began on the 6th of April 2021. And it seems to be like there's no end in sight to this ongoing strike. Joining me to discuss this topic via Zoom is Barrister Aborisade Femi, a legal practitioner and a human rights activist. Also joining him on this discussion is Mr. Achike Chude, a social commentator and a human rights activist. Please stay tuned and go nowhere. Joining us on the show today is a legal practitioner and a human rights activist. We have Barrister Femi Aborisade joining us on the show this afternoon. Barrister, you're welcome, sir.
Thanks very much for having me.
The pleasure is ours, sir. So we kick off with first of all, we like to hear from you. We like to know from you, sir. What is financial autonomy?
Well, the concept of financial autonomy within the context of the strike of the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria is as defined by the Constitution in sections 81, sub 3, and 121, sub 3. These two sections provide that any amount standing to the credit of the judiciary in the Consolidated Revenue Fund, or as the case may be, shall be paid directly to the heads of the courts concerned. This means that the heads of the courts, the chief judges of the state, for example, will not have to be appealing, will not have to be begging, will not have to be going to the governor caps in hand, begging for the release of funds meant for the judiciary as appropriated by the legislature. That is what the state governments have refused to implement, an express provision of the Constitution to allow freedom, financial freedom to the judiciary. Give them what belongs to them. If it is one kobo that belongs to the judiciary in the budget, pay it directly to the judiciary. The executive should not keep it to itself and be expecting the heirs of the courts to be coming begging or coming caps in hand, begging for what statutorily belongs to it. That is the concept of financial autonomy.
Now, if that is the concept of financial autonomy, I'd like to ask, sir, the principle of separation of power as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended 1999, is it being followed as expressed in the Constitution? Are we practicing it like it is expressed in the Constitution?
Within the context of financial autonomy, which the state governors have not given effect to, the state governors are behaving as if they are above the law. Yet, the principle enshrined in the Constitution of that of checks and balance, autonomy of the three major arms of government, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Obviously, the failure or refusal of the state governors to observe the provisions of sections 81 sub 3 and 121 sub 3, that failure on the part of the state government to observe the express provision of the Constitution means that the Constitution is not being observed as far as the autonomy of each of the arms is concerned.
Okay. My next question is this. Do we require, you are aware that sometimes in May 2020, the president signed an executive order to the respect of, in respect of the payment of
financial autonomy.
In respect of financial autonomy. Now, my question is this. Do we require an executive order for us to carry out instructions that are spelled out in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Executive order is absolutely irrelevant. Executive order can only be issued in accordance with constitutional provision. Where an executive order is issued and it conflicts with any constitutional provision, that executive order shall be null and void. Therefore, in my own humble opinion, sections 81 sub 3, section 121 sub 3, the two sections have covered the field. The executive order is what we call a surplusage, because the Constitution has covered the field. So it is actually very annoying, very provocative, very unfortunate, very disturbing that the state governors have refused to give effect to constitutional provisions.
Now, your statement takes me to my next question, which is the refusal of the governors to adhere to what the Constitution stipulates. How do we term it? Is it an assault on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or is it treason? How do we describe it?
Well, you know, I liken the attitude of the governors, at least most of the governors, and some of them are lawyers. Some of them are senior advocates of Nigeria.
I'm coming there, sir.
I liken their attitude. Pardon?
I'm still coming there. I'm coming to that. I'm coming to what you just, you alluded to some of them being lawyers. Yes, so I said I'm still coming there.
Yes, yes. I liken their attitude in terms of their refusal to observe the express provisions of the Constitution as far as financial autonomy is concerned. I liken it to the behavior of bandits in the bush. The reason why I liken the attitude of the governors to bandits in the bush is that bandits don't accept that their victims have any right under the law. Bandits do not accept that their victims have any rights under the Constitution. As far as bandits are concerned, they are above the law. They are above the Constitution. Therefore, our governors, those governors who have refused to give effect to the express provisions of the Constitution, are adopting what I term governance by banditry. In natural fact, I contend that their own banditry is worse than the banditry of the bandits in the bush. Because without the provisions of the Constitution, they will not be there as governors. The Constitution created their position as governor, yet they have the effrontery to disregard the Constitution. And when you disregard the Constitution, you are disregarding the rights, including the fundamental rights of citizens under the Constitution. So we should not tolerate it. We should all condemn it. We reject banditry in governance. It is worse than an assault. It is impunity. They have no regard for the people. And we should tell them they dare not do it. In actual fact, it is not only Jusun that ought to be up in arms, protesting peacefully. All other unions should join Jusun. Jusun is not fighting for increase in pay for members of Jusun. They are fighting for sanity. They are defending constitutionality. They are fighting to free the judiciary from the disturbing, overwhelming control and manipulation and corruption by the executive arm of government. The source of corruption in the judiciary is the executive arm of government. They expect that the heads of government, the heads of the judiciary will be coming to them, to beg for the release of the funds meant for them, so that in the process, they'll be asking for favors in cases where they are interested. So we should all join Jusun. Other unions should join Jusun. Some state branches of the NBA have been coming out demonstrating in support of Jusun.
Yeah.
I call on other branches of the NBA to do the same.
Okay. Moving on, sir. I'm aware that we have 36 states in the country and the Federal Capital Territory, and each one is governed by a governor. Now, out of all these governors, I know that in the Southwest we have Ogbeni Rotimi Akeredolu, who is a legal practitioner and also a senior advocate of Nigeria, being the governor of Ondo State. I'm aware that Aminu Tambuwa of Sokoto State, the governor of Sokoto State, is a legal practitioner before becoming a politician. And obviously, he's still a legal practitioner. I'm also aware that Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, is also a legal practitioner, with his wife being a member of being a judge. Now, considering all these people, these eminent people who are legal practitioners, should they allow Jusun or the bar and the bench go through this harrowing experience that is being experienced in the country currently?
Obviously, they ought to have set a good example. All those governors you have mentioned who are lawyers, one of them is a senior advocate of Nigeria, former president of the Nigeria Bar Association.
True.
They ought to have set a good example for other governors to follow. But I will advise Governor Rotimi Akeredolu is a friend, and I would advise him to set a good example for other governors to follow. The reality is that occupying the position of governor already means that they are now politicians. The thinking of the lawyer may no longer dominate their system. It is therefore the pressure in the society that will compel them to do the right thing. If, for example, the legislature, the state houses of assembly were independent of their political parties, if there were no political godfathers, I would have expected each state legislature, where any governor, be you a lawyer or non-lawyer, has refused to give effect to express provision of the Constitution, I would have expected each state legislature to initiate the process of impeaching the governor. The moment that process is initiated, nobody will preach to them. Nobody will beg them before they do the needful. We should not forget that financial autonomy for the judiciary is not just a constitutional provision. It has been interpreted by our courts in not less than 3 judgments in which the state governors were parties. Olisa Agbakoba, the former president of Nigeria Bar Association, won 2 cases, one against the state government, one against the federal government. Jusun has also won a case against all the state governors, and judgment was given in each of these 3 cases. Therefore, they are not only disobeying the Constitution, which is unfortunate, which is an impeachable offense, and for which the impeachment process ought to be initiated, they are also disobeying court decisions. And when they do this, they are encouraging anarchy. That is the example they are setting for citizens. They are setting the example of lawlessness, arbitrariness. It is just unfortunate. But they could have their way so far only because the state legislature has not been active, because the state legislature perhaps is not free.
Hello.
So,
hello.
Mr. Achide, yes. You're welcome. You're welcome to the discussion.
Okay. Well, because I've been listening, now, of course, my greetings to the barrister himself, one of the most consistent Nigerians I know, especially matters that have to do with the Nigerian state. I've been listening keenly. So can I make my addition?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes, it's unfortunate that when you look at the country and you look at, there seems to be much less pressure on the state executives all over the country for a very long time. And perhaps there's a reason for that. We all understand the concentration that we have when things are not working well in the country. So everybody is looking at the center of what is happening at the level of the federal government. And that has given the state governors leeway to commit all kinds of, undemocratic practices over the years. And so 2 things have exposed them for who they really are. That they are no better than, the anarchy, and the lack of respect for the rule of law that we see, in the states is no better than what we see at the federal level. Sometimes perhaps some of them are even worse. And why am I saying so? We talked about the issue of autonomy for local governments for a very long time, the 3rd tier of government. But we have seen a deliberate effort over the years by state governors all over the country. And that's why when we make statements, when we say that these people are the same, regardless of political party, regardless of their ethnic origin, regardless of their religious proclivities or inclinations, they are essentially the same. And we saw this sameness on display during the COVID situation last year, where in many parts of the country, governors from different political parties and different persuasions all acted in unison to deprive the people of the COVID relief materials. And so you see this same oneness of thinking among all the 36 state governors. None of them wants to give the judiciary, none of them wants to comply with the constitution, just like Barrister Feda Boshade has said. They know that the law is clear. They know the intent of the law, and they understand the wordings of the law. They know that the law talks about, just like one of the questions you were asking Barrister Femi Aborishade about the balance of power, within the three tiers of within the federal government, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. But we now find a situation where all of them are acting in unison, pursuing the same goals, the same level of selfishness, because they feel it is in their political interest to emasculate the other arms of government. Of course, we know that in this democracy that we are practicing, that the dominant branch of government has been the executive, and it is not the way the law intends it to be. So they emasculate the state, legislature, they emasculate the judiciary, so that they're now using this, or having achieved this, they now ride roughshod over the people of this country. And there's nobody to stop them. Because under normal circumstances, when a governor gets out of control, the first port of control, is the legislature. But the legislatures have been emasculated. Then the other level is the executive, is the judiciary. After having dealt with the legislature, they now move into the judiciary and are refusing to uphold the law of the land. What makes them, people who swore by the constitution to uphold the laws of this country? So you see this anarchy, this lawlessness by the governors. But again, like I said, it is the fixation with the failure of leadership at the federal level that has sort of insulated these governors from the opprobrium of the people, from the people noticing the anarchy and the havoc that they have been doing in their states. This has opposed them. But I must, again, really acknowledge and doff my hat for the Jusun workers, because they are not the only stakeholders, within, the judicial space. You would have expected long before now that lawyers, with their level of education, with the fact that they are the ones usually at the receiving end of unfair judgments, maybe as a result of the control being placed on the judiciary by state governors. You would have expected that lawyers and the NBA would have made this thing a fulcrum of concentration, of the activities over the years. That has not happened. So it has taken, yes, we agree and we support the fact that, and like the fact that the NBA has woken up and is now fully supporting Jusun in many parts of the country. But we must, say that Jusun has been very exceptional in understanding the need to fight for the independence of the judiciary in this country. The lawyers should have led the way. They did not, but at least thank God that they are, fully in support of what Jusun is doing. This is something that is good for this country. But it's a shame and it's unfortunate that these people who call themselves representatives of the people at various, states in this country are nothing are nothing more than anarchists and selfish in the way, they have carried on their activities as executive governors. They are not worth the office that they are sitting, the seats that they are sitting on. And that is the truth.
Mr. Achude, you've spoken so well. You've spoken so well. It's always an honor to have, people like you on the show, to, give idea and opinion to some issues trending and going on.
We're learning from Barrister Femi Aborishade. They are the ones who are following.
Let me also commend Comrade Achike. I always enjoy all his interventions, and I must say that I want to echo the commendation of Jusun he has made. I'm also particularly impressed by Jusun. They are so exceptional, so unique. They have demonstrated uniqueness from the rot we have seen in the society at the moment. Please keep it up.
Now, let me take my last question, which is the NBA president has tasked all the NBA chairmen from the different states to, go to their state governors and demand that these demands of Jusun be met by the government, by the governors. Now, my question is this: if for 14 days the Jusun workers have been striking, though peacefully, and the governors have not done anything, do you think paying a visit, though the NBA president said they should do it every Monday from now onwards until the demands are met? Now, my question is, do we see them changing? Do we see them bulging? Do we see them responding to the demands of the Jusun workers? Barrister Boishade.
Thanks very much. When I read the directive by the NBA national leadership on the WhatsApp platform of Ibadan-based lawyers, I reacted by saying that the NBA leadership has narrated in the letter in which the leadership directed state leaders to be visiting the governor. The NBA, they have suffered nationally. The Minister of Labor was to chair a meeting where the NBA was to be present. That meeting was called off at the 11th hour. The day only. The NBA leadership also narrated the frustration they have with the governors, that the governors forum has refused to meet the NBA leadership. I therefore encouraged that the NBA leadership and the state leaderships should consider calling out the membership of the NBA at the national level, at the state level, to join Jusun in peaceful protest. And I believe that with time, the NBA leadership and the state leaderships of the NBA would consider my appeal. Of course, we recognize that some state branches of the NBA have taken up the initiative on their own to join Jusun in peaceful protest. I also call on other branches of the NBA to do the same. I appeal to the national leadership of the NBA. The measure the national leadership has announced goes to some way in addressing the concern of the NBA. But that measure may not be sufficient to achieve our goal. Peaceful protest it is. Thank you.
Can I say something too? Can I add?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Can I add to that?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. I agree. You see, government is about the people fundamentally. The reason why politicians are elected to public office is not to do their own work, but to do the work of the people, and that is the welfare and the security of the people. Now, when there's a failure of the various branches of government, for instance, because the people are usually the greatest beneficiaries of good governance, and they are the biggest victims of bad governance, then the people have a greater stake in what happens in their country. So when you have this kind of failure of political leadership, the people must not, abdicate their responsibility, because ultimately, it is about the welfare of the Nigerian state. So when there's breakdown of law and order, when politicians go AWOL and they begin to behave in ways that are diametrically opposed to the provisions of the Constitution, the people cannot wait only on institutions of governance or government, and maybe a few pockets of groups to fight their battle. Ultimately, it becomes the people's battle. And so the Nigerian people must, because somebody has said that the price we have to pay for our democracy is eternal vigilance. We cannot shirk away from our responsibility ultimately. You know, the country, I mean, look at the security situation that we have in Nigeria and all that. The people themselves must stand up to be counted, even over this matter. The governors have shown themselves to be very unconscionable people. When it comes to governance, they have been exposed. And so I would have suggested, I think maybe the barrister, Barrister Femi would also, perhaps inform us on perhaps, because you see, you have one illegality on the part of the governors who refuse to obey the law. Is it not possible somewhere along the line that since there is a groundswell of opinion with regards to the independence of the judiciary, across the entire country, would it not be possible that at the level of the the Mobilization and Allocation Committee, to assess what is, should go to the judiciary in all the states of the country, and make this deduction from source and send it directly, to the state judiciary, judicial councils. I want to believe that there's an account into which these monies are paid, and they can be sure that the governors can raise hell, but they will be sure that the people will stand fully behind the federal government. It is not many things that people have agreed with this government, especially with what has happened in the past few years. I'm talking of the Mohamed Buhari administration.
Yeah.
But there are a few things that he can use to sell himself to the people. This is one of those things. And I can tell you that the governors can shout from now till tomorrow. The Nigerian people will not listen to them and will toe the path of the federal government if the federal government decides to do the right thing. This is what I expect to be done, because a desperate situation calls for a desperate solution. And this is where we find ourselves in. It's just like the issue of local government, fund. You cannot continue to allow these people do whatever they want to do with it against the express provision of the Constitution of the country. And then tomorrow, when they are the receiving end of the law, they will shout, the rule of law. If you remember the case with Tafa Balogun, former IG, he denied people their rights. And then when he now had an issue and fell out with the powers that be, the day he was being dragged on the ground by his own policemen, he was shouting for the rule of law. So, I mean, the same person, now all of a sudden, rule of law means something else. You don't see a virtue in implementing the rule of law. So these are the issues we are talking about.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. Thanks very much, Comrade Achike Jude. Thanks very much. Actually, the executive order number 10 addresses the measure you have advocated. Okay. And that is why the governors are kicking against the executive order number 10. But as far as I'm concerned, any governor that is not prepared to observe the express constitutional provision should be impeached.
Exactly.
We should not even tolerate them in governance for a second.
Yes.
But in the meantime, your measure is in order. And that is what executive order number 10 addresses.
Okay. Well, at this point, we must bring the discussion to an end. I really must thank you, Barrister Femi Aboishade, for giving us your honest and candid opinion concerning all the issues. Comrade Chude Achike, we must thank you as well for your wonderful comments concerning these issues, and your heartfelt pouring out you're pouring out of your heart, concerning the issues that concern Jusun. Once again, I must say thank you for joining us on this discussion. Thank you once again, and have a nice day.